Hi, I'm Ben and welcome to This Month in Book News, where we're going to be running through everything you need to know about the literary scene in May 2024. This is the second edition in this series. Thank you everyone for all your feedback on the first one. As ever, happy to hear what you think of this format down in the comments. But the main change this month is that I'm going to be talking slightly slower. I do still want to keep it snappy though, so let's get straight into the news. First up, I'm really hoping that I don't have to report on authors' deaths every single month that I do this, but sadly we've recently lost two literary titans. C.J. Sansom died on the 27th of April, aged 71. He was the author of historical fiction best known for his Shardlake series, and you might have seen the first in the series, Dissolution, on many a bookshop table. His passing comes just days before a Shardlake TV adaptation comes out, and I do hope he got to see it early because it must be such a joy to see your invention come to life on screen. Then on the 30th of April, Paul Auster also passed away. He was an author of literary and often experimental fiction, best known for his New York trilogy and 4321, and just last year his novel Baumgartner, which probably would have been in contention for the Booker. I've not actually read either of these authors, but Auster in particular is someone I've always wanted to read, and I know both authors are beloved by their fans. Probably the biggest prize news of the month is that the PEN America Awards ceremony has been cancelled for 2024. This news item was originally that some authors had withdrawn themselves from consideration, then that 9 out of the 10 authors nominated for the Jill Stein Prize had pulled out, but things got so bad and so many authors withdrew that the planned ceremony has been completely cancelled and many prizes have not been able to be awarded. The reason so many authors have pulled out is because they say PEN America has not gone far enough and not been unequivocal enough in its support of Palestinians. The point of PEN is to defend writers at risk and protect free expression, and the America Centre has definitely lagged behind others across the world who have been much more vocal in calling on governments and other organisations to stop supporting and funding Israel's war on Gaza. There have been many open letters and statements issued by authors that condemn both the war and PEN America's failings. One that stood out to me was from Maya Binyam, the author of Hangman. She summed up how disappointing it is for authors to be put in such an untenable position, saying, quote, PEN America should be ashamed that their failures have forced these decisions onto authors whose work deserves to be celebrated. In cancelling the awards, PEN America issued a statement in which they said, quote, we greatly respect that writers have followed their consciences. We regret that this unprecedented situation has taken away the spotlight from the extraordinary work selected by esteemed, insightful and hard-working judges across all categories. Of course, the impact of a book prize not being awarded is nothing compared to the human tragedy that's taking place in Gaza. But if we are to look at this through the lens of the publishing industry, writing books is not a profession in which it's easy to make a living, and the income from prizes can make a big difference in helping more authors write full-time. With a wave of campus protests going on across the US, this might not be the last impact we see. The protests actually started at Columbia University, which awards the Pulitzer Prizes, so there's a chance of some impact there. The next story, in a weird way, is somewhat linked to the previous one, with the news that sales of books in the horror genre were up 54% between 2022 and 2023. Those figures were from the UK, but we might assume that it's reflected in other markets too. How on earth is that related? Well, it's claimed in the Guardian article that I read that the boom is partly fueled by the political nature of the genre, the suggestion being that it's a way for authors to comment on the horrors that we see in the news cycle and for readers to explore dark themes and feelings that they're being exposed to, while also using it as a little bit of escapism. I think this logic kind of holds, but not massively. Sure, if you look at authors like Mariana Enriquez or a lot of what's coming out of indie publishers like Cypher Press's novels from Alison Rumfitt or lots of stuff coming out of Dead Ink, there is a decidedly political slant to their horror. But I'd be interested to know what the best-selling horror titles were, because my guess it's probably more driven by BookTok trends and stuff like Grady Hendrix, and that more leans into slasher and B-movie sensibilities, which would make it more about nostalgia than about our present moment. Next, the Hay Festival lineup has been released. If you're in the UK or visiting in the last 2 weeks of May, it's your chance to visit the UK's biggest book festival in the world's first book town, as the Hay Festival is taking place in Hay-on-Wye in Wales. The full lineup of events has recently been announced, including so many authors' events that I am just scratching the surface here, but they include events with Booker winners like Anne Enright and Paul Lynch and Marlon James. Plus, and I'm going to take a deep breath here, Chigozie Obioma, Coco Mellors, Amor Tolls, David Nichols, David Mitchell, Karis Davis, Ayobami Adebayo, Jhumpa Lahiri, Benjamin Labatut, Sarah Bernstein, Sanjeev Sahota, Leo Vardy-Ashvili, Adanya Shibli, plus a Women's Prize shortlist panel with Isabella Hamad and Claire Kilroy, and an interview with the International Booker Prize winner, who we obviously don't know yet. I went last year and absolutely loved it, and if you get the chance to go, even to just 1 or 2 events, I'd highly recommend it. Finally, there was a survey by the Society of Authors which revealed that more than 40% of translators said that their income had decreased because of generative AI. Maybe the silver lining here is that much of this is presumed to be commercial work, so we're unlikely to see the 2030 International Booker longlist filled with ChatGPT translated novels. And the strength of feeling that readers have about having the translator names on the cover feels like we're unlikely to see publishers even testing the waters in this sort of thing. But it's an important reminder that for many translators, working on literary novels isn't all they do, and they supplement their income with commercial work, which is probably going to be impacted. The loss of that work makes it harder to get by as a translator at all and work on the literary stuff we love. We'll have to wait and see how things play out, but we have to hope that translators will be able to take steps to protect their income and livelihoods against AI, in a similar sort of way that we've seen with movie and TV writers and actors recently in the US with their strikes. Let's move on to what's coming out this month, and it's another absolutely stacked month for new book releases, with a bunch of heavy hitters and exciting debuts. As ever, these are all UK release dates, so check local listings to find out when these books are coming to your country, as they might be different. Because there are so many exciting titles, I'm going to try not to linger too much on each book, but I'll include a bookshop.org link where you can find more details on all of the books. If you buy them via my shopfront, I will benefit a little, but you can also change it to support your local indie bookshop if you prefer that. I'll run through these in order of release date. First up, on the 2nd of May, we've got The Alternatives by Caroline Hughes. This is an Irish book, which always is a fair bet these days that it's going to be good, and this is about a group of orphan sisters who have to work together to figure out what happened when one of them disappears after she found out something worrying about the Earth's future. On Bookmarks, it's sitting at a positive from 8 reviews. Then on the 9th of May comes Great Expectations by Vincent Cunningham. This is about a man working for a presidential candidate in the run-up to an election. It sounds fantastic and I am excited to read it, but I'm also not sure if it's a good idea or a bad idea to be reading this in what is sure to be a hellscape of an election year. I also really love this cover, but the US cover is also very, very beautiful. This one has a positive rating on Bookmarks. It actually has a lot of rave reviews, but it's dragged down by one pan from the Financial Times in the UK. Shouldn't they be reading like spreadsheets or something instead? Another debut coming on the same day is Cinema Love by Jia-Ming Tang. This is a queer novel set across 2 time periods and places, in 1980s China as men find intimacy in cinemas, and in New York's Chinatown 30 years later. Sounds fab. Also on the 9th comes a sophomore novel from Moses Mackenzie called Fast by the Horns, which I have to give a shout out because Mackenzie is a Bristol-based author, and this is set during the 1980s St Paul's riot, which took place here in Bristol. On the 16th of May is the release of The Ministry of Time by Callianne Bradley, and I'll be honest, I am so baffled by this release. It has such sparkling endorsements from people like Max Porter. It has a massive marketing campaign, and Bradley was included in the Observer's list of best new novelists. But I've also read some pretty negative reviews from readers that I trust who say this is a bit of a mess. Am I being gaslit into being excited about this? I think maybe, because this novel is starting to feel like a bit of a psyop. Table for Two by Amor Tolls is a short story collection with a more contemporary setting than his usual historical fare, but it does include one story that features characters from The Rules of Civility. It's also out on the 16th and has a positive rating on Bookmarks. Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors is coming out on the 23rd of May. I have to be honest, I didn't like Cleopatra and Frankenstein apart from Eleanor's sections, so I'm saying this one not really for me, but for any of you out there who loved Cleo and Frank. Also on the 23rd of May comes Long Island by Colm Tóibín. This is a sequel to his much-loved Brooklyn. Another one coming on the same day is Exile by Amy Walsh, about a woman from Belfast who is making a new life for herself in Liverpool until some drastic event changes everything. Walsh has said that she took some inspiration from Anna Burns's Milkman, and I know a lot of people love that novel, so this may be of interest. Moving on to the 30th of May, and we're getting The Road to the Country by Nigerian author Chigozie Obioma. winner. This is perhaps the release that will most pique the interest of Book Prize fans. It's Obioma's first novel since 2019's An Orchestra of Minorities, and both that and his debut The Fisherman were shortlisted for the Booker Prize. I'm off on holiday very soon, and I think this is going to be coming with me. The Safekeep by Yael van der Woden is also out on the same day, and I don't know too much about it beyond it being set in the 60s over a sweltering summer, and it's supposed to be about paranoia and desire and rage. Finally, also out on the 30th is A Person is a Prayer by Amar Kalia. This is a book told over 3 days and 3 generations about a migration, and it's an imagining of what the journey a family like Kalia's would have made. I recently heard the author talk about this at a panel event, and it just sounds brilliant. There are also a bunch of books coming out in paperback that I'm excited to see hitting shelves. My top picks include the Booker winner Prophet Song by Paul Lynch. The cover for this one is unchanged, although there is a bit of a dark mode variant in indie bookshops that I've seen out in the wild already, and they look pretty cool. Many people's personal Booker winner, The Bee Sting by Paul Murray, is also out in paperback with a cover that's been given a little bit of a touch up and an improved font. I love this one. It is perfect if you're going on any holidays soon. 2 books that, in my opinion, have had a huge glow up as they've moved to paperback are Bellies by Nicola Deenan and Small Joys by Elvin James Mensah. And rounding things out are Penance by Eliza Clark, Eve by Kat Bohannon, and Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kwong. The latter leads us nicely into what's been announced because, at least in Waterstones, but maybe everywhere, the Yellowface paperback will include an exclusive sneak peek chapter of Kwong's new book, Catabasis. Catabasis, the word, means the hero's descent into the underworld, and this book's going to take it quite literally with a return to the dark academia that Kwong is known for from Babel. The book charts 2 rival Cambridge academics' journey into hell to save the soul of their advisor. It's quite a wait until we get our hands on this though, because the final thing is not out until August 2025. I repeat, 2025. Margaret Atwood is getting a retrospective poetry collection out in October this year, but I apologise because this cover is a little bit of a jump scare, because at first glance when I saw this on Instagram it looked like an obituary post. I'm not sure what they were thinking making this cover quite so morbid. And finally, it's been announced that Jeff Vandermeer will be releasing a 4th book in the Southern Reach trilogy, which I guess will stop becoming a trilogy at that point. Absolution is coming out in October, and its announcement came with the news that the first 3 books will be getting a 10th anniversary re-release with beautiful new covers that I can only pray come to the UK. Moving on to prize news, and there is, quite frankly, too much prize news this month, so forgive me if I gloss over a few bits or miss some prizes out. We'll start with winners. Of Catalan Men by Anna Paula Meyer, translated by Zoe Perry, has been announced as the winner of the Republic of Consciousness UK prize. The prize is specifically for small presses, and I think it's technically awarded to a publisher rather than a book or an author, but it marks the first win for Charco Press after previously being shortlisted on 2 occasions. Enter Ghost by Isabella Hamad has been crowned the winner of the Aspen Words Literary Prize, which is for a work of fiction that illuminates a vital contemporary issue. Not a surprising winner given that little from the long list seems more vital than this. And Hungry Ghosts by Kevin Jared Hussein took home the Best Fiction Award at the OCM Bocas Prize, which celebrates Caribbean literature. A bit like the Writers' Prize or the Nero Book Awards in the UK, they have category winners and then an overall winner. Hussein didn't take home the big prize, just the fiction category award, because the overall winner was Sophia Sinclair and her memoir How to Say Babylon. Let's talk about shortlists, and it's more good news for Enter Ghost as it also made the cut for the Women's Prize for Fiction shortlist, along with 5 other books. From what I read of the long list, I think this is a pretty good shortlist, and a lot of the books I've seen people love and predict were included, such as Soldier Sailor, Enter Ghost and Brotherless Night. Anne Enright makes her 3rd shortlist appearance for The Wren. Aubrey Lescure is the only debut to make the cut with River East, River West, and previous winner Kate Grenville is probably the most surprising and controversial inclusion with Restless Dolly Maunder, which I actually thought was really good. I really enjoyed it. I just think a lot of people would have preferred something else in its place. The winner is going to be announced next month on the 13th of June. Another prize rewarding books written by women is the Carol Shields Prize for women and non-binary authors in the US and Canada. It announced its shortlist too, with 1 title overlapping with the Women's Prize, Brotherless Night. Also included are Burnham Wood by Eleanor Catton, A History of Burning by Janika Oza, Daughter by Claudia Day, and Coleman Hill by Kim Coleman-Foote. The winner is coming a whole month sooner than the Women's Prize on the 13th of May. Rounding out a trio of prizes for women, the Stella Prize is the Australian equivalent, and its shortlist includes yet another nod for Alexis Wright's Praiseworthy, along with 5 other titles I won't run through for fear of making this video too long, but I will show them on screen. The winner is coming on the 2nd of May, so it may well have already happened by the time I'm publishing this video. The International Booker Prize announced its shortlist of 6 titles. The only 2 I read from the long list made the cut, and while I enjoyed both, I just found them okay rather than remarkable. And from what I've seen, that's the general consensus about this year's prize. It's generally a bit of a weak year with a disappointing long list, but from it, an okay shortlist. So in addition to the dates I've already given you, here are some more for your diary. The Pulitzer Prize for Fiction will be announced on the 6th of May. I've got some predictions up for this one, and I'll link to that in the video description. If you're wondering where the long list or shortlist is for the Pulitzer, there isn't one. They just drop the finalists and the winner at the same time. The British Book Awards, or the Nibbies, are announcing their winners on the 15th of May. I'll be honest, I don't really care about this one, and I find the shortlists a little bit uninspired, but I do think they're going for a completely different audience to the sort of stuff that I usually follow. The Dylan Thomas Prize for Writers Under 35 will announce its winner on the 16th of May. I'm probably rooting for Small Worlds by Caleb Azuma Nelson, but it's a great shortlist overall. And the Dublin Literary Award, that one that listed every single book in existence on its long list, will finally announce its winner on the 23rd of May. Let's talk books on screen, and the big new adaptation dropping in May is probably The Tattooist of Auschwitz, adapted from the 2017 novel by Heather Morris. This book has an absurdly high rating of 4.3 on Goodreads, but weirdly what I know of it suggests that it's not particularly good, and it's riddled with inaccuracies despite being based on a true story. Critical reception for the adaptation though has been pretty sparkling, with a Rotten Tomatoes score of 88% from 8 reviews. The previously mentioned Shardlake adaptation is also coming to Disney Plus very soon. It's a Tudor era mystery thriller, and it's also had some very good early reviews, sitting at 83% on Rotten Tomatoes from 12 reviews. There have also been some pretty cool announcements. Firstly, Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder is a book that has become a bit of a cult classic, and it's been adapted into a movie that stars Amy Adams, which is coming out in December. I haven't read the book, but if it's the one that I'm thinking of, it's about a woman that slowly turns into a dog at night. An adaptation of Daisy Jones's novel Sisters is being premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in May, and for the movie version, it's been retitled September Says. I enjoyed this book and I found it quite eerie and gothic, so it will be interesting to see if those vibes make it onto the screen. We've also seen the first images from the BBC adaptation of Bernardine Evaristo's Mr. Loverman. This is about an older man whose gay affair is revealed to his wife after multiple decades. I've got a copy of this one and I really need to get to it because I adore Evaristo's writing. The adaptation of The Thursday Murder Club has also had its cast announced. It's going to be coming to Netflix in a movie starring Ben Kingsley, Helen Mirren and Pierce Brosnan. I still can't quite get my head around the fact that the facts guy from the TV quiz show Pointless is now like one of the best-selling authors in the world. And finally, it's only just come out, but Caledonian Road by Andrew O'Hagan has already been optioned for a TV adaptation, with Chernobyl director Johan Renck attached. Chernobyl is one of the best TV shows of the last few years, so it's going to be exciting to see where this one goes. On to book bargains then. I don't have any particularly exciting book sales to tell you about, which is maybe a great way to avoid temptation. I will be checking out the new set of Kindle deals though, which refresh each month, but as I'm filming this, I haven't had a chance to go through them yet. I will check them out and put some on screen, and as I did last month, I will link to an Amazon wishlist with my top picks. I know a lot of you are in the US and won't benefit from these bargains, so I'm going to have a quick look at the US Kindle store and see if any May deals stand out to me, and I'll put them up on screen now. If you are still looking at my face right now, it means I didn't find any. But yeah, that's it for deals. Finally, our feel-good story. And this week's one is some much-deserved justice for wannabe wet lettuce Liz Truss. If you don't know who Liz Truss is, you're probably not alone.
What is this?
No, hard to identify. Maybe minor royals. I can't identify them at this point.
We can't spot everyone, unfortunately.
I'm just told that was Liz Truss, the new Prime Minister.
She is a populist UK politician who somehow bumbled her way into being Prime Minister for a record short 47 days, after she launched a disastrous budget and tanked the economy, which she later blamed on leftist financial markets. During her time in office, The Economist magazine compared her longevity to the shelf life of a lettuce. And there was a tabloid that kind of put a face on a lettuce and like pitted it against her, and it outlasted her. Anyway, she's trying to claw her way back into the public eye and released a book called 10 Years to Save the West, filled to the brim with conspiracy theories and reasons why what happened to her wasn't her fault. Political memoirs do tend to sell by the boatload, but the great news is that this limped into the book charts in 70th place. Now, I have checked, and it turns out she is once again being outdone by a lettuce, which holds strong as the 7th best-selling vegetable in the UK. Thanks for joining me for this month in book news. Do let me know in the comments if you had any thoughts on any of the news stories or you're excited about any of the new releases. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please do hit the like button because it really helps my channel out. And if you're new to the channel and you'd like to see more from me, then hit subscribe. But until next time, toodles.